You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Toast of the Town with Christy and Mel, and happy Texas Independence Day.
Oh, look, you got it all out.
I did.
I did. Today's actually non-toast of the town because we didn't bring our glasses
We didn't bring our
today.
toast,
but it's like soggy bread day.
Exactly.
Oh, but you know what? We have good reason. It was a late night last night.
It was.
And as much as I was planning to sleep in this morning, that didn't happen either.
I know, because somebody called you at 6:30 or whatever.
No. Well, no, I was up 6:30 anyway. I just planned on going back to sleep, and that didn't happen. But, you know, they had so much going on in the news. Obviously, there's a few things going on in the world, you know, and never mind what's going on here at home. And yesterday being Fat Tuesday as well as Election Day. And
I know.
And then today being Texas Independence Day. It's just one of those weeks.
Mardi Gras. Let's not call it Fat Tuesday. That's such an ugly word. Fat
Why?
Tuesday. Mardi Gras.
Only if you take it that way.
Mardi Gras is a broader time frame.
Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah.
hey.
Look, quit picking on fat people, okay? We already have enough. We already have enough on our plates.
And there we have set the tone for today.
Yes.
The next hour.
We'd like to introduce you to our guest. This is a little earlier than we usually do, but we have Brian Dawson with us, you know, famed political analyst, and the other,
As the head grows.
exactly, and the other person we have with us, it sounded so ugly, so.
Oh, well, I already am.
It's-
I know that.
Is Landon Este, who was another, well, they're just political nerds. That's what they are. I'm just going to go ahead and call it what it is.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
That's how we're gonna do it.
We're excited to have both of
Do you
them.
feel
Yes.
properly offended, Landon?
I always am. I'm using the butt of the jokes. You know?
Well, we're so glad you guys could come. Obviously, there were some interesting results that came out last night, and they're still coming out as we just looked a minute ago, waiting for Harris County to certify some numbers that make no sense. But here we are. Post-election day.
And Brian was late.
Yeah.
I was. You know, usually in this group, that's not me. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, just want you to know. Just want you to know.
So what was y'all's overall takeaway from yesterday? I mean, thinking voter turnout, thinking, you know, general results. What were your big takeaways from yesterday?
Well, I'd say there were a few surprises. Mostly went the way I expected. I pretty much expected Judge Keogh to win.
Yes.
There was no surprise in the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race. I guess, you know, more locally, the one that was kind of surprising, though, was Commissioner Metz out in
Yes.
East County. It looks like he will not be returning to court next year. But I would say overall that there wasn't that much of a surprise.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm a little surprised at Governor Abbott's spread. Not that he won,
Right.
but that he won as handedly as he did. I mean, look, when you've got $60+ million in the war chest, that's obviously makes you formidable for just about anything, even in the state of Texas. But given the resources that his opponents had, specifically, you know, former Senator Huffines, and their ability to really match him dollar for dollar as far as major TV spots and mail. I got more mail from Huffines than I did the governor.
I mean,
I did too.
regular like
Yeah.
a
It was
lot.
Like, it was like I missed one day.
And we know, and I'm certainly not. We know mail doesn't win, but it does drive. And given what we've gone through the last 18 months, I really thought it would be a little. I didn't think he'd be in 60s with that many people running. That's I guess is what I'm trying to get out. The AG race was interesting to me.
What happened?
So it looks like it's going to be.
Embarrassingly, I don't know.
I don't know the last time we had an incumbent go to a statewide incumbent go to a runoff,
Yes,
but
yeah.
obviously
With
AG
Bush?
Paxton with George P. Bush.
which was a shocker because I think.
That was the last one that I would have said.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of got the feeling that
Well, I
They-
saw him pick up speed toward the end.
Well, but I got a feeling. Obviously, we know the machine that goes behind with the Bush legacy and the Bush name. But I don't mean just the name, but the machine that goes into the political machine that works in that with that legacy. But I kind of had a feeling that it was leaning that way because the ads you saw were both, whether it came from Paxton or from George P. Bush,
They were
they were
each other.
both targeting Eva Guzman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that kind of told me that they felt like that's where it was. That's the person that could upset that. I think for obvious reasons, AG wants to. If he is going to go to a runoff, he wants to go against George P. Bush. That kind of cuts the lines of the Republican Party
Sure.
pretty clean.
Sure. Absolutely.
In a runoff, whereas former Justice Guzman, it didn't make it as a clean. He would have had it would have been a very different race for him.
Different battle.
Yeah, a very different battle.
Do y'all remember what the point difference was between Paxton and Bush? It was closer than I expected it to be.
I've got it right here. If you'll just
Sure.
give me one.
And it was closer than it was in Montgomery County. Paxton clearly won Montgomery County.
Right.
State. Let's see. No.
Paxton has friends in Montgomery County. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
he's got lots of connections and friends.
Yeah, but while he's looking at
Yeah.
that, I think he's got a point. Paxton would rather face Bush because there is Bush fatigue here
Sure.
in Texas.
Oh, yes,
Sure.
absolutely.
I mean, we loved HW, we loved W, but after a while, they're like, we're tired.
Yeah.
So
Turn
somebody
ready for
else.
something a little fresh and new. Yeah.
Well, and so the AG pulled 42 points. According to the Secretary of State, that's where I'm reading the unofficial results. Statewide, the AG pulled 42.6%. Guzman pulled 17.4. Louis Gomer was at 17 flat. And George P. 22.8.
So,
Okay.
so there's still a pretty good. There's still a.
I mean,
pretty
there's
good spread.
basically a 20-point
Yeah.
spread, double. I mean, 429,000 votes versus 803. It's what we're gonna see because I'm trying to think statewide. I think that's the only runoff that we'll see. It's gonna be which machine can get out the vote.
Yeah. Right.
We know that's the runoff. That's
Right.
the key to the runoff, right?
Absolutely.
It is
If
it is a
we
single.
should put you on the staff because
You know
that
I don't work
that-
cheap. I'm easy. I'm not cheap.
That's genius. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I didn't figure you had.
It was what is it? What do you call it?
With that, get out the vote.
Get out the vote.
Well,
someone, people should start to incorporate that into their campaigns.
Yeah, I know. I know.
well, I think we're gonna talk a lot more about the get out the vote, just whole idea, not only for runoff, but because
in general.
just in general and going into November, but we also have a municipal race coming in too. So it's
Yeah.
we got a busy few months coming up.
And it's 60 days away.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But so looking at the governor's race, well, looking at all the statewide races too, how much do you think, especially here in Montgomery County, the results may have been swayed because of the Trump rally? Do you feel people got more fired up? I mean, I haven't even looked at total voter turnout numbers, but we were still
We're still low.
low. And you would think with the political rally mentality that we've been having around here over the last few months, that I was expecting more people to turn out. Now, we all know that not everybody that was at the Trump rally was here, was from
Right,
Montgomery
right.
County. But what do you think?
But
I
the
mean,
fact that we hosted it should be.
yeah.
And we want to hear their opinions, but my only opinion is this, that I think that the elections 2 years ago, okay, so that would be presidential elections. I think they tainted a lot of people. I think it really made people mad. And I think that there are some people, because I had people say that to me, I'm sick of politics. It never turns out the way it's supposed to anyway. And they don't mean voting. They think the voting was cheated.
Well,
Right.
they're disenfranchised.
Well,
Thank you.
And,
Good
and-
word.
And
Yeah.
speaking of those election results, I mean, just looking at the Harris County numbers that you were pulling up, obviously there's some issues with some discrepancies.
Yeah, so let me pull up what the Harris County Elections Administrator has here. So I am looking at the race for District 8, which was being vacated by Kevin Brady. We have precinct 121 with 0 registered voters, but 80 people have voted for an 8,000% turnout. I mean, I don't know how you get a percent turnout for zero. It's insane.
They might need a mathematician more than they need a voter registrar.
Probably so. But I mean, we have a.
If only they had an accountant not licensed in Texas.
Right? It's different ethics in here, for sure.
Sliding scale.
Yes. But, here in Montgomery County, we also have an elections administrator who is supposed to be sort of independent from, the elected body. But, and they did have it in Houston. Here in Montgomery County, it seems to work well.
Yeah.
So why is the elections administrator in Harris County having so many issues?
I don't. And I was watching the press conference this morning when they were mad that they were being questioned about this, and people are like, no, everything that we're seeing, there are some big problems.
Absolutely.
And I don't pay attention to Harris County for obvious reasons. They do have an independent election administrator.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
they
don't
have
go through the clerk's office.
Yeah, just for a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's been there for 7 major elections, I'll say.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't you figure it out by now?
Yeah.
Well, they can. They're getting so much input. It's a county position that's appointed. Well, that depends on who's making the appointment, of course.
Well, true.
And Beaumont's actually going. We happen to be working some in Beaumont, but they're actually Jefferson County, not Beaumont. They have had a highly Democrat commissioners court that made the appointment, that wanted to make an appointment for that, to take it out of the county clerk's office. And, we have a Republican running for the county clerk's office. It's like, no, 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 no. Well, now they've got 3 people that can vote because the county judge became a Republican and so forth. But anyway, so she is trying to hold on to that, and the county clerk that's leaving is a Democrat, and she's trying to push it so that they have an appointment, so that they can appoint a Democrat, and the Republican is trying to, it's whether you appoint it or whether you elect it, it's still partisan. It's still highly partisan, because these people they're not electing independent people, they're not appointing independent people, and I don't know how you expect it to ever be. I think you put 2 people in charge. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, and they look at everything the other one's doing.
We throw them in a mud pit and let them just
exactly.
dig it out. Because sometimes that's what it feels like.
Mud wrestling voting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
What's that?
What?
Mud wrestling voting.
It's a whole
Something
new
I said got
concept.
his attention.
Whole new concept. So we have Charlie Riley won his reelection bid, which is it was a great, solid win. So that's great. Steve Toth is keeping his seat,
Yep.
and so is Cecil Bell. So none of those 2 terribly shocking incumbents are.
I only saw the Montgomery County numbers, so Mel, I'm gonna ask you, did Representative Bales, I know he was pretty neck and neck in Montgomery County. How did his votes turn out statewide or for his district? Did he win?
I think he was ahead.
I think
Okay.
I think he was.
I mean, I can look.
well
I
ahead.
didn't know. I never only ever looked at the Montgomery County numbers.
Okay, so I didn't stay up and catch all the votes late at night, and I've done nothing but talk on the phone this morning.
Okay.
So I
What
don't
is that?
know.
18, right?
Cecil's 3.
Yeah,
Bales
I know.
is
Bales
18.
is
Yes.
18.
Bales is 18. See, I tell you, load the card don't work.
Oh, here we go with
Oh,
the mule
gosh.
story again.
If you'd come up with new catchphrases. Here's one.
Why do I
Here's
need
one
to
for
when
you.
they work so well?
Here's one for you. Strategic
Strategic roadmap.
roadmap. That's it.
Everybody's got an opinion. Sometimes it's quite adroit, or astute. Sometimes it just doesn't work. No matter how smart you think you are.
Yeah, he did 56.3.
Oh, so he
Yeah.
clearly got it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I would say he had a really tough re-election race when I was actually talking to him quite often, whenever that was. I want to say it was 4 years ago, but maybe it wasn't. But anyway, it was a tough race. The girl's last name was Kibido, I believe, and she was backed by all of the money in Texas, the very conservative, and anyway. He beat her. So I wouldn't think anybody
Yeah.
could beat him right now. He's
Right.
just a really okay.
Well, I just know with redistricting, I mean, normally that hasn't been a. We met it. We've known him since when he won his first race. You and I met
Oh,
him
that's
back
right.
then.
That's right. You were part of that.
But now with redistricting, now he has part of Montgomery County. So I think we've got what 4 state reps
Full
now.
course.
Yeah, and
No,
he
that's a
lives.
senator.
Oh, that's right.
So
And
we have
he-
2 houses in this. I'm teasing.
Oh look!
Everybody
I
seen
saw
the
a
death
smile.
stare?
I saw a smile.
Is, but there's the death stare.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And he lives in. I mean, and this is big because he's now running in Montgomery County. He lives in Shepherd, Texas.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in Cole. I mean,
Shepherd, Texas.
no,
Cold Spring.
no.
San Jacinto
San
County?
Jacinto County. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We were gonna get there
I
eventually.
know. Thank you. Thank you. She finishes my sentences for me. Anyway, San Jacinto County, which is like nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere. You know, you drive 20
No-
miles.
no
to get
offense to
anywhere.
anybody
Yeah,
listening
no
from San
offense to
Jacinto
anybody
County.
in San Jack.
But he doesn't live. Well, I think what I'm taking from what you're saying is he doesn't live in a populous area. He doesn't
No,
live
right.
a metropolitan.
He doesn't
I
have
say
any.
metropolitan.
He doesn't have any base to
Yeah.
fall back on geographically.
He didn't live in a population center. He didn't
Right.
live in
Yeah, there you go.
Huntsville, Conroe, Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
Yeah. Well, so what about Crenshaw's race?
Yeah, no surprise.
I don't think that was surprising. I mean, I think that, I mean, that was kind of what was expected and
Right.
why redistricting went the way it did.
Right.
I think it was to shore that up. So
That's the reason the vote went to make this.
well, I
happen,
mean,
to do that happen,
let's
to do that
be
happen.
honest.
I know.
When
I know.
he was first elected, I mean, it was a battle for the primary. It was a battle for the general election,
election,
and I think that I don't think it was to keep him from the primary side, but I think that we'll see in November that it's a much easier
What
easier
happened?
seat.
I didn't hear. What happened in the Wesley Hunt race? Does anybody know?
Was CD?
I don't know.
Well, I'll say one thing on Crenshaw, though.
Mm-hmm.
With him taking over the Woodlands as part of his district,
Right.
That's just kind of solidifies the Republican base for him.
Sure.
So he should have an easier time in the general. for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and there was a lot of talk. I say a lot of talk, but there was talk. There were some people that were genuinely concerned if all of the recent backlash was going to really affect the numbers, and I didn't really think it would. Crenshaw has been, relatively steady with his interaction with, his new base, and I know he's been making an effort to get out into the community and meet his new voter base and everything. But I don't remember what his point win was, but it was pretty good.
It was good.
Yeah,
It was significant.
solid. Which, while y'all are still looking at your numbers, what about the CD8 race? I mean, I think this is probably has been, especially here, locally, but I think even across the state, it's been a race that has garnered a lot of attention.
Sure it has.
Number
Absolutely
one,
it has.
with Representative Kevin Brady retiring, obviously very loved and supported in this community for the most part. And his retirement leaving, a big vacancy here, add that with some redistricting, and then add that with how many candidates were in that race? 11? 10?
it was
eight?
it was a clown
10 or
car.
11.
Yeah.
It was like every time the Beatles came up, there
11.
was another clown
That's
that
what I
came
thought.
right out.
Yeah.
The Beatles.
And so, and obviously there were some, interesting names. There was people that, I never saw anything from.
Right.
But obviously it came down to really 3 front runners that we've seen in a lot of different forums and have come out, very vocally for that position. And,
And I think that race was tainted from the beginning because it was split and divided, and we didn't really find out exactly where it was in the right amount of time because a lot of those people were running already.
Right.
And so you just don't know how hard you want to work or where you want to work to let people know. And in that vein, I think Morgan Luttrell, he didn't care. He
Yeah.
was going, he was winning, and that's all. That's
Yeah.
all there was to it. He jumped in there, and I think Christian Collins was probably the same way. I think Houlihan held back a little because he thought he was on the fringes and he might go someplace else.
Well,
I think you give that boy another chance, and he'll win.
I think Houlihan, if anyone, I don't know that any one of those candidates benefited in CD8 from the redistricting change.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think Houlihan was hurt. Because he had been working some population centers that he lost, especially where he's from in East County, that he lost a significant amount of that to CD2.
Sure.
So I don't, like I said, I don't know that any one of them was really helped by the change, but I do feel like he was hurt.
He was hurt.
Now,
And I don't know.
I don't know that it would have changed
Made
the
a difference.
outcome.
Yeah, right.
But I think his numbers would have definitely been different had that portion of Montgomery County stayed in CD8.
I agree. And I don't understand.
I think-
Boy, I don't understand the redistricting on that. But, I mean, we have this one little, I'm in CD8 because I'm on the south end of Walker County. But we've got that little strip. We lost all these other counties. We've got and then we took part of Montgomery County out and put a little piece of Harris County in.
Yeah.
Why?
What?
Go ahead.
Well, no, and I think the why is more about CD2 than it is about CD8.
I got you.
What I was going to say is what I thought my interesting takeaway was the amount of money that was poured into that race, and the lack of performance as it correlated to votes in some angle. I mean that was surprising. I mean, when you look at races like that, we always talk about campaign viability, right? And one of the things you look at is the ability to raise money and have resources, and that's usually a clear indicator. And especially in a federal race, when you're talking about a multi-county, large geographic area, and to have the amount of that number one, 11 candidates, and two of them have almost equal footing. To a large degree, financially, and from a machine standpoint, and to see the outcome be so lopsided,
Right.
is very intriguing to me.
Interesting. Very.
And then you also had, Senator Ted Cruz come out and
Yeah.
stick his neck out. I mean, is he losing political capital for that?
Wait, is who losing political capital?
Cruz.
Because
and I
he
would-
stuck his neck out
for-
with
for-
no benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
Right. And I will tell you, he did it in Walker County too, at the very end. Some of, I could follow the breadcrumbs, y'all could too, as to why Cruz did that. But he supported Ben Bias over Kyle Kassal.
Okay.
Okay, and so, Kyle Kassal he's just a little more liberal. I don't think he's a screaming liberal like the mailers would indicate.
Right.
But he is certainly more liberal. And I don't think he's a bad guy. And there's going to be a runoff, and it'll be fine, and whoever wins, wins. But why would Ted Cruz stick his,
Well, I think to
I'll
Landon,
tell you why, but that doesn't have anything to do with the race.
but I think to Landon's point is, the question is, does it reflect a loss of political influence?
Exactly.
Or is it going to cause him to lose political influence? And I don't think we know, right?
Right.
Because normally that was a prized endorsement that in both of these races did not have, or at least I don't know the numbers for the one you mentioned, but at least in CD8 did not have the intended impact.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, what do we always say about endorsements?
We hate them. We hate endorsements.
Because personal endorsements can really go
They can go either way.
And so you're right. It was a cause or effect, and
You're
I
right.
think we're still yet to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still yet to see that.
but I also, and I'll go out and say this, I think in that race, and I compared it the other day to, a sports analogy, if you will, teams going into the playoffs, and I think one campaign peaked at the right time, and another one didn't, and you could have the bet. I mean, we saw it. The Patriots 6-7 years ago ran undefeated through the regular season, and then they lost the Super Bowl, right? Best team in
Yeah.
the league,
Yeah.
and because the Giants peaked at the right time. The Giants peaked in the Super Bowl going into the playoffs, and I think you saw you saw that in that race. You saw the winning candidate really peak at.
Okay, and I'll tell you something else too, because I watch how campaigns work, because
Right.
that's what we do.
Right.
So,
Is that what we do?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
well,
we
I
just
was-
showed up and had drinks and.
Well, we
went
do
home.
that sometimes
Okay.
too, but Anyway, so I watch how they evolve. And for Luttrell's, I don't know whether it was his decision or his team's decision, but that thing morphed the entire time. I mean, it didn't. Whereas if you look at Christian Collins's, and I'm not picking on Christian Collins, I'm just looking at his campaign. It was the same thing over and over and over and over. He didn't change where he was going. He didn't change, and Luttrell did. Luttrell got people started mouthing about whether it was.
Luttrell's campaign was an all full-on assault.
Exactly.
From all directions.
But it didn't start that way.
but
it was fantastic.
But to Mel's point, it didn't just morph. It didn't just go with the way it responded.
There you go.
It was responsive to the electorate, right? They would get feedback or questions of issues that were important, and it would.
And that is, and I will always get. I don't personally think I ever want to work with them, but that Murphy Nasica team they're just bad. They are bad, and they do. That's what they do.
Bad to the bone, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. That's what they am.
Well, I mean, they put it together. I mean,
they do, and they respond, and wow, you better have a bucket full of money, but
well,
they're good.
And that was the other thing I was going to mention. Has anybody pulled those campaign finance reports to see what the totals of those races were? 'Cause
I have
obviously
not,
there were
no.
some expenditures there that were on and not just on one team or another. I mean, that had to have been a pretty high dollar race.
I would also like to see, we saw a lot of, and because I'm a nerd in this, I keep, and Mel knows this. For each cycle, I keep a file of all the mailers I get that cycle.
We all do that.
I know, I do too.
That's terrible.
I've got them in my organization.
And
We should all be ashamed of ourselves.
For this cycle, I'm gonna have to get a special accordion folder because I'm kind of stacked.
It's nuts.
But my point, but to your point about the CFRs, there were a lot of packs, and I don't understand the strategy there. Right, there were a lot of packs that were used on one side to get that money, not to get the money, but to get the mail out of there.
Yeah.
I think I know why, but
Okay, well, here we go. This is from the Federal Elections Commission website. So Morgan Luttrell had $2.1 million come in, and he spent $1.4. Christian Collins had $387 come in and spent $317. And then,
but that's just their direct campaigns, correct?
right. Yeah,
that's not
it's not counting the soft money
And
and
that's where they said that
Collins had
him just beat hands down.
Well, it
with
doesn't surprise
all
me.
the soft money that came in. So anyway, that and I don't know that. That's what somebody told me, and they were very officious when they told me.
Well,
so I assumed they knew what they were talking about.
I know I've got at least a dozen mailers from that campaign on my desk.
I do
At
too.
least a dozen, if not a dozen and a
I
half,
think it's more.
that were all paid for with soft money.
Yes. I mean, really soft money.
Yeah.
The super kind of soft
Yeah.
where it says no candidate knows
Yeah.
about any of this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
right.
and I
But they
think-
have official campaign photos. It's very strange how that
very
happens.
strange. What I think is interesting too, though, which is this is kind of what everybody, obviously we're still waiting on Harris County to figure out what in the HE double hockey sticks is going on down there, and which had prevented Luttrell from actually claiming the all-out victory last night. But I mean, show of hands, who thought that was going into a runoff with 11 candidates?
Oh.
no.
No, wait.
I was the only
no,
one.
I don't even want to hear it. We've had this argument.
Wait.
That I said he was going to win it outright without a runoff.
After I told her to say it.
That is baloney. Oscar Mayer
I
right there.
said I was very skeptical about that campaign to start with, but it changed. It had somebody else running in it first, and then they took over. And once it started morphing, changing, however, I did in the end think, but it took the last week for me to think it was going to
I
be
think
outright.
the development, and not only of the campaign and the strategy that went along with it, but I think as Morgan got more comfortable being in that role, and obviously, and very well educated man, life experience that most of us will never know. it was really cool to see. Number one, people felt comfortable with him because if he, if you asked him a question or early on or whatever, and he didn't know the answer, he's like, I'm going to find out. I'm going to get back to you. And he always did.
Yeah.
And he was very responsive with people and made himself kind of vulnerable in
Well,
that way.
and his new people could have put him through his paces. In the words of Dwayne Ham, y'all be careful if Melanie worked for you, she'll send you to smile school. She'll send you to smile school and teach you how to smile. Now, I never sent Dwayne to smile school, but there is such a thing, and there are things for candidates so that they're more responsive, more quickly responsive.
Well, and I think, and I know, Christy, you heard him say this. I think he learned to adapt his training to what he was the new mission, right, if you will, and what he's doing. And he talked, and if I heard him say it once, I heard him say it a dozen times, and that was he'd look at somebody that he'd only fleetingly met once, like a month ago, and he'd go, I remember your face. I'm sorry, I don't remember where you are. Tell me where we met. Yeah. And people were just like, and then they would start telling him, and he would cut them off and say, yes, I remember. And it would immediately come back to him. And I think that ability to do that and to develop that connection, he didn't shy away from anyone. Yeah. He didn't shy away from the hard questions. But the other thing that I think resonated with some people is, he had some associations that he had to, I don't want to say answer for, but that he was kind of took dings for.
Put on the spot
and took dings for.
Sure.
And I think that a lot of people, whether they liked the answer or not, they at least respected the fact that he didn't, even though it may have been politically expedient, he didn't turn on the people he had served with and how much that meant. And he would say, I disagree with them, and that's okay. But that's my friend. I served with them. I mean, whether it was Crenshaw or others, he would say, "Look, I was deployed with that guy. I'm not, that
you
is."
mean a grown-up that disagreed with another grown-up, but still could have respect and regard for them as a person?
Exactly.
Wow,
it's such a concept.
But to stand there,
shocking.
But to stand there and to be willing to take and know that it wasn't politically expedient, right? In that moment, and to have the backbone, right? To really just stand fast and say it's okay for us to disagree, right? But they're still my brother, and I'm not gonna deny that.
Well, and one of my favorite things about Kevin Brady in the way that he is as a communicator and an elected official is, you have a conversation with the guy and you can ask him anything, and he always has an educated answer. He may not be the subject matter expert, but he's going to know what you're talking about.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things that he always does is ask, what do you think? And he would ask for that information and really listen to you and make you feel validated. And I think that's one of the things that Morgan does really well too, is he makes people feel like their questions are important, even if he doesn't agree.
And I agree 100% with that, because I watched him do it several different times. And again, that was part of his growth. So I think we could. Okay, so to the Holly Arbuckles out there, don't pat yourself on the back, love. I know you're listening, but I think that is going to be a real study that we can look at, and I don't mean just the campaign. I mean how the candidate was handled, how the people got the word out, where they went, where he went. I think it'll be really interesting. I really do.
And I just saw Holly, make a comment, and this was true because it's something that I saw him do too. He went and knocked on doors. He met voters.
Yeah, he did.
And worked hard, and and that's one of the things too that we talk about all the time, that everybody that goes in, every candidate and runs a legitimate race, and like they're. Look, I've gone on job interviews and not gotten the job before. I haven't done that on a public platform where, all of your friends are sitting there watching you,
right.
And people are publicly criticizing you at the same time. But it's a hard thing to do. And so anybody that, throws their hat in the ring, makes a legitimate run, obviously I can't even imagine it, but the vulnerability and the exhaustion of running a race.
Well, and I will say one thing. that it took me a while to see, right? And it was the aspect of that campaign that nobody saw.
Yeah.
And it was the meet and greets with 10 or 12 people. And you think of a congressional race and you think that's a disappointment, if you will. And
We have commissioners that think that's a disappointment.
But when you do it, if you're doing one a month or one a week, then yeah. But when you're doing 2 and 3 a night,
Okay,
Yes.
so
2 and 3 a night, and then and I'm sorry, but I saw his, I saw a couple of them where they, his folks were like, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" And he's at a table sitting down with somebody
Talking.
random that just stopped him, and
Yeah.
and that willingness to open. You talk about being open in public, and so. I think it resonated. I think that side of it that was not public and was not publicized for, I don't know if it was a strategic reason or not, but it just wasn't.
well, and Holly just said the Luttrell campaign made about 206,000 voter contacts.
Wow.
That's astonishing.
That's amazing. Yes.
The politically astute Dr. Wally Wilkerson. We love this guy,
We
right?
love him,
him. One thing he always says is, go out, knock on doors, wear out your soles of your shoes,
That's right.
and that's how you're going to win.
Yeah.
So along those lines, this isn't a local race. This is one over in Jefferson County. He called me last night at midnight because he won. He's going into a runoff, but he won outright. And I said, "So you think because you won, you can call me at this time of night?" He said, I'm not going to tell you exactly what he said. So then he said,
But that was an affirmative response.
exactly. And then he said, I just want to thank you and Christy. I said, well, of course, it's what we do. My usual. And he said, no. He said, the last couple of weeks, the things y'all said to me, he says, when y'all were at that meeting we knew what we were talking about. But anyway, that meeting where everybody was there, he said, and we sat at that table, he said, and my wife started bad-mouthing all the things I was having to do. And he said, and the looks on both of y'all's faces, he said, it told me I needed to get out more. And he says, and I know 16 miles in 4 days doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of walking. He
yeah.
said,
Well-
I kept up with how far it was on my phone. So he said, I couldn't have won without that.
I mean, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I can attest to that. I remember 4 years ago, and you would look at me, and I'd be mad, I'd be down, whatever the case would be, and you'd be like, look, I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I'd be, you'd be like, just do me a favor, go knock on doors. Call me when
make you feel
call me. And I'll say from that perspective, it was amazing how that changed because you get the political noise out of your head as a candidate. And it didn't work out for me, but I know how therapeutic that
It
is.
Right.
For what a candidate is trying to accomplish. And it for me became a very good tool that you often reminded me of to manage that and manage the stress of a campaign, because you're reminded every door why
You're
you're
gonna make me
why
cry.
you're doing what you're doing. So,
Oh my! I
No,
didn't bring
you tend to
tissues
do that
today
with
either.
Do you have a tissue? Anyway, and I'm glad you said that.
No.
Because when you run next time,
well,
y'all heard it right here. Y'all heard it right here.
well, what's bad is when I'd be like, I'd be ranting, and she'd be kind of trying to cut me off. I'm like, listen, I know, I just need to go knock on doors, but let me finish.
When you run next time, you'll start off knocking on doors. In fact, make your announcement. Knock on the door.
Easy.
I'm just teasing.
About time for lunch. I'll make that announcement. So.
But I think overall, I think it's going to be when we finally get those Harris County numbers and make it official. I think it's going to be. I think Luttrell is still going to win it outright
I think
without a
yes.
runoff.
I think
And,
it's too.
with 11 people in a race, it's not exactly the most common thing to happen. But to me,
No,
it wasn't shocking. So
Yeah.
y'all just remember that.
Okay. Did we ever find
I was
out if
right
Wesley
once.
Hunt won?
Yes, he did. He did 56%,
Yay!
according to
Awesome.
the Secretary of State unofficial.
Okay. Thank you for the official unofficial.
Yes. Okay. So
Well, just a disclaimer.
Yeah, I know.
So as usual, whenever we get into these conversations, the show is going by rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I think we need to talk about was what we kind of started off with, which is the Get Out the Vote campaign and how important that's going to be, not only in these runoffs, but going into November. You know, we have a returning Democrat coming up for another huge race in Texas, and I think it's going to be interesting. And you can't help but wonder how the COVID landscape is going to actually affect the results of that. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you've got, but I think it's more than the COVID at this point. Honestly, I think you're going to have border security is going to be I assume you're talking about the governor's race.
Yes.
Border security, I think the economy, I think geopolitical landscape is going to impact it mainly. And I say that, but not trying to draw global politics into this, but because of the economic implications. Because we're going to be feeling it more by November, and I think that we will really start to see where we stand and the thoughts. But I also think we're going to see that $80 million machine go to work. Loving or hating, right? This is not a pat on the back to Abbott, but that they know how to run that.
They know how to.
They're
do
a
a
well-oiled machine, and they've got resources that I don't know the other side is even prepared. I don't know that the party has that.
He has done campaign after campaign after campaign, and he's very good at it, and he's got the personality for it, and he's got the money for it, and you're absolutely right. That will go well for him. But the other thing, I mean, I think world events, global, as you said, I think are going to play big in that, and I think that Get Out the Vote will be, if everybody is so responsive, I think it'll go easier this year. I think Ukraine will have, something will have happened by then, okay? I don't think we're going to like what's going to happen, but something will have happened by then. Biden's not going to give in on the oil and gas thing. We're going to have $5 a gallon plus. Whose phone?
I don't know. I
Hey,
think
it's not mine.
we're all just
It's not
popular
mine.
today.
It's one of y'all's.
Mine's on silent for once.
Okay.
Well,
so- but I really do think that the people coming in off the border, that having high everything, gas specifically, I think all of those things, as a result of Ukraine, as a result of all that, I think it's
Well, but then you also at the same time am I the only nerd at the table that taped the State of the Union, then went home late last night and watched it at 1 o'clock in the morning?
I will not watch it.
Oh,
I have right here. I have this headache that pops up when I get under stress.
Well, but-
I'm quite sure it's a stroke.
relative to what you just said is you've got a president that is in my opinion obviously is seeming very weak on the global stage and announced major domestic social welfare agenda.
I agree.
And I think that
It just seems so out of touch.
it does, and it's so out of touch that you saw attacks and rebuttal. You saw for the third time a same party rebuttal.
Yeah.
And in fact, somebody will have to fact check me on that, but I know it's happened before. I don't remember if it's one or two other times.
Right.
But it's a single digit kind of situation where you've had a same party rebuttal to their party's
state
president. I mean,
Yeah.
in the executive office, and that we always know the other side has a rebuttal, and I think that's very telling with how out of touch. I mean, you even saw.
And that's
You even
a really
saw the
good
vice
point.
president and the speaker not exactly like looking at each other almost out the corner of their eye, not knowing are we standing or are we sitting or what are we doing here? And
No, wait. I'm going to go ahead and do it for Brian. That's because they're women.
no, no.
You said it best.
I have no confirmation of that. So, but I will say the one thing that you did see, the one unifying aspect of the speech was at the very beginning when he recognized the ambassador to the Ukraine. Because in that you have both sides recognizing that what is going on in the Ukraine is, and the resolve not only is a bad thing, but recognizing the resolve of the Ukrainian people to stand up against
amazing.
an
refreshing.
oppressive intrusion of their sovereignty. And I think that we're getting a very important lesson on state sovereignty and what that means and the ramifications.
The Ukrainians are the Texans of that part of the world. I mean, they're not. I mean,
I know we can't repeat it here, but the story of the soldiers on Snake Island,
I
right?
know.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Well, and when you look, they took the time to legalize Molotov cocktails. It's like,
I mean, I asked that question on Facebook, and what annoyed me the most
and they
was the
probably
fact
did
that
Robert's Rules of Order too.
the fact that people didn't understand what I was getting at. I mean, we've got tanks rolling into the country from 4 different locations. Are we really taking the time to
Just quick vote.
repeal an ordinance? Is that what we need to focus on here?
Hey, just simple show of hands.
I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
Look at some other past conflicts that Russia's been involved in, and has been beaten back. With the Taliban in Afghanistan. Then you had the U.S. in Vietnam, where locals kind of beat the U.S. back. And it really kind of is a David and Goliath kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So you've got your David here, who's fighting with small arms and whatever they've got, and you got the big Russia guy, the Goliath,
Tanks.
it's the tanks and all
Running
the
out of
stuff, and you still have the little guy, fighting back.
Yeah.
and not just fighting back and winning, but what the other thing is, and I think that this and these are reports, right? None of us have been there, so we can't confirm it. But one of the things that I think is important to remember or to take from these reports is that you've got Russians actually saying,
This is
"What
right.
what are we doing?"
Yeah.
And
why?
you've got major number one, Russia's not reporting their casualties.
Yeah.
Right.
Number 2, you've got protests in Russia.
Yes.
That are being violently put down, but then you also have reports of Russian soldiers, damaging their own vehicles so that they, putting holes in their own fuel lines.
Oh, is that really?
You've got reports of them they're already running out of fuel, raising serious questions about the plan, the logistical plan behind this. And then Sunday, Condoleezza Rice, Secretary Rice, was on Fox News Sunday, and this is someone that had sat across the table from Vladimir Putin,
Right.
I think half a dozen times,
Right.
and even she went. And I think her temperament is one that's made for the global stage.
Absolutely.
Yes,
She's very
absolutely.
calculated. She's very concise. She's very on point. And she made the point. She goes every time he's always been cold and meticulous. She goes, this is not cold and meticulous. This is a very different. And there's serious questions being raised about where he's at and what the end game is to this. So I think it raises serious questions about the Russian economy. I think it raises serious questions about the state of the Russian economy prior to this, and
What
now
we
that the
don't know.
ruble's valued less than a penny. What's going to happen on the other side? But the other thing is we're seeing the importance of technology, right?
Oh, yeah, with
Because
cyber attacks and
well, not just that's the bad of it, right?
Yeah.
But the good of it is you have Elon Musk because they're trying to shut off the Ukrainians and some Russians from internet access. We see one aspect of technology, and we talk about social media and the big tech censoring us as conservatives and this, that, and the other. But then we have to remember there's another side of that coin, and you've got Elon Musk that's positioning a satellite to offer unabated internet access to these people so that they can know the truth about what is going on, get their messages out, and we're getting these stories, and I think the world is responding to that. The world is responding to the backbone of the Ukrainian people, the plight of the Ukrainian people.
Well, and I had that same thought.
And I think the
Russian
Russian people, but I think the Russian people, more importantly, are responding to that.
I agree, and I had that same thought a couple of days ago. Is this we are seeing this as it okay, we're not over here, we're over here. Okay, now we're over here. And they draw lines, and they do this, and we're watching it all live on television more so than Tiananmen Square. Say,
Yeah.
Right.
you kids, you were all kids.
But
Interrupted my cartoons.
you would have asked me.
Yeah.
You would have asked me a year ago. What do I think of TikTok? I absolutely hate it because all I see is my daughter, doing these little moves, just random, like, what the heck are you doing? But now I'm seeing, videos of the Ukrainian people out there, and just doing some.
And the Russians, they're all taking pictures of each other protesting.
Yeah.
Did we get? Did we get?
and wait 5 minutes. Yeah, but I think it's we had this discussion the other day. they were doing some reporting, and they were like, can you imagine being in your house and watching, explosions outside your window? Well, obviously this is not the first time in history that war has been brought into people's neighborhoods,
Right, yeah.
But the
brought
thing
into your living room,
yeah.
literally.
But what I think is so unique, especially in this time in history, is the ability for people to instantly communicate, or supposedly instantly communicate, to find out where their loved ones are, to be able to know if they're safe, to figure out how to be able to coordinate efforts to do, there's a friend of mine, they flew into Poland to get a bunch of kids out of an orphanage and be able to get them fed and get them in safe shelter. And you see these concerted efforts by, I want to say ordinary people, but I don't think they're ordinary people. But to do things non-traditional ways
Right.
in order to make a huge impact. And obviously, technology has a big thing to do with that and their ability to be able to communicate, which is why, one of the first things they did was try to take out communications towers and everything like that. But to see the people find different ways to communicate, to work things out, to come out with plans, figuring out how to shoot these rifles, how to, making makeshift bunkers, all these things that they're doing, it's just astonishing.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I'm thinking about all these candidates that didn't do so well that are kind of global type people, and they got jobs in front of them. They need to hook up, connect with over there,
Well,
and get some things done.
And I think going back to what started this kind of string of the conversation is, and I think, I don't know what's going to happen to your point, Mel,
Yeah.
that it's probably not going to be good. And however it goes, I don't think it's going to be good, especially for the Ukrainian people or the Russian people for that
Yeah.
matter. But I do think it's going to play a big part of the November discussion because it is going to be impactful. I think I've always said I believe the Texas economy is a microcosm of not only the national economy but the global economy. We do have a robust economy and have maintained a robust economy through the plight of the last 24 months. And I think that it's going to be a big part of that discussion, and all these things are going to factor into it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And not just from, Governor Abbott's standpoint and things like that, but then also how they're going to try and attack that and how they're going to try and make an argument against that.
Yeah. Well, I know this is a discussion that's going to be ongoing because I know, there's still lots coming down on us, but and some finalization of races and obviously what's going on in Harris County, which is almost laughable. But anyway, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up today.
I know. Will you guys come back and join us?
Please.
again?
Maybe
Do you actually want me back?
Yes.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Y'all make us laugh when there's things not to be
Yeah,
laughed about.
but thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you. Absolutely,
Obviously, I
thank
think going forward, there's going to be lots to talk about these races, and on and everything going on in the world. So, if you are tuning in for your first time, make sure you mark your calendars for every Wednesday at noon when we celebrate Hump Hour of Hump Day. Right here every Wednesday at noon, Toast of the Town with Christy and Mel. You can watch us on Moxie Innovative on our Facebook page. You can also tune in to irlonestar.com or 104.5 or 106.1 on the FM dial if you're here in the Conroe area. You can also watch us on YouTube, so make sure you connect. We're going to bring you all the fun stuff happening in and around Montgomery County, and we're just happy to be back.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We all make it a great week.